You find me in the beautiful town of Biarritz in the Basque country of southern France, and I'm here with Virgile Pilon, the luthier behind Blind Guitars.
Hello!
You may remember a Blind Guitars B51A model that I showcased on my channel a while ago. It was a wonderful instrument with an arch top and a flat back, really intriguing. One of the things that attracted me to your work is the aesthetic. It's this beautiful mix of early 20th century vintage design and some very modern wood choices, techniques, things like that. How did you come to this look for Blind Guitars?
At first I wanted to do very contemporary and modern lutherie, but at one point in my life I started to work in a big repair shop in Paris. And
oh, right.
Yeah, and so I started to work on vintage Martin, vintage Gibson, and to understand what was really attractive in those instruments. This is something that I never thought really about it. I just did it naturally.
I have seen a lot of other luthiers try and bring together this idea of vintage and modern, but you seem to take inspiration from particularly esoteric guitar models, Ditsons, Stellas, that sort of thing.
Yeah, indeed. Just because I love them. There is something about, vintage Stellas that sounds like they sound really boxy, and there is a thing about early blues guitars, and I don't know, I just really love those guitars. And also I wanted to take my time before making my own design, like something more personal. For this guitar I took 100 guitars before I decided to take an instrument and redesign it my own way. So yeah, it's just that those Ditson and Stellas and early, all the brands that are not Gibson or Martin, there is a lot of charm to it.
Do you remember a particular instrument that inspired you when you came across it?
One guitar changed my vision of guitar making in general, and that was during my years in Virgile, and it was 32 or 33 Gibson LOO that has been played like hell. There is no consistency in vintage Gibson. You can find like beautiful ones that sound like shit, and ones that have been beaten up and that sounds absolutely beautiful. And this one just totally changed my mind about vintage instruments. And also I got explained by the player what he liked about it, why he doesn't like more modern instruments, and what the frequencies and the way the guitar behave, and what's good about it. In a recording, in a band situation, how the guitar goes easily into the mix, all of that. I worked in a big repair shop in Paris, and I saw like pre-war Martins and pre-war Gibson, and really beautiful and very expensive instruments. Most of the guitar I saw were cheaper instruments and Stellas and even Echoes or Italian guitars or European guitars.
Right, yeah, the Echo Ranger.
Yeah, really, I like those kind of instruments. In Pigalle in Paris, in that repair shop, I fixed probably something like 4,000 guitars.
Oh, that in how long? How long were you there?
In 3 years and a half. That was, wow. Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of instruments. That was great. That brought me a lot of experience in very short time.
What sort of issues would you be fixing?
Everything for just the simple setup on like a cheap guitar, to redo all the bracing on the vintage Martin, to doing the lacquer, everything. Fret jobs, electronic jobs. I'm not really great at electronics, but I did it a bit, but mostly everything you can think of. As a repairman, I did it.
And you have a background as a furniture maker as well?
I started when I was a teenager as a furniture maker apprentice, and especially furniture repairs and restoration. So that was a great year, because I was like 18, something like that. And when you are 18 and you start to work on 16, 17, 18th century furniture, that's just... there is a depth of history, just something in your hand, and just it's really mind-blowing for a teenager to be able to work on such pieces like that.
Did that teach you anything about the techniques, the woodworking techniques of the time as well?
Not directly related to guitar making, but yeah, of course, you start to learn how to use chisel, planes, a bandsaw, anything. And you have also the opportunity to start to work with very precious materials, like, because tortoise shells, true tortoise shells, Brazilian rosewood. My first experience as a woodworker was working with Brazilian rosewood, so I had the smell of it, and it stayed in my mind.
How did you feel repairing the work of someone who had made this piece in the same way that you work now, hundreds of years before?
It's really, how can I say that, humbling? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really humbling, because you repair, especially as an apprentice, as an 18 years old apprentice, you repair the work of a 16th century master, and you just try to don't fuck up. Yeah, really, that was like that, and no, I loved it. All the builders and repair guys who will be watching this video, they can testify that the worst is to repair the mistakes of someone else.
So given that the blind guitar sound has its roots in your years as a repairman, your experience with vintage instruments as well as modern guitars, how would you describe the sound that you're looking for in an instrument?
I am looking for something balanced in general, which is to me the most difficult thing to get. Doing a very powerful guitar, doing a very loud guitar is quite easy. But doing those two things plus being balanced is to me it's very difficult. But I'm looking for that, and at the same time also having the characteristic of a modern guitar, so more harmonic, something like more open guitar.
So I spent some time with this B24 guitar. Tell me a little bit about this model.
This is my most personal model. It took me 100 guitars to allow myself to design a model. And even if I designed it, I started with the aesthetic of a Ditson.
Yes, the Ditson, is it the Model 11?
Model 11, which is the middle one. There is a very small one, a middle one, and the other one is basically a dreadnought.
Exactly that. Now, I've got a lot of love for the Ditson. How do you say that? 111, 111?
111, 111.
Yeah.
There's a 111 and 111, I think. Yeah.
Gorgeous thing, which of course was the ancestor. It was made by the Martin Company, wasn't it? Under the Oliver Ditson brand. So the first dreadnought design. And what we have here is essentially a sort of very elegant miniature dread.
Yeah. That's the idea, a miniature dread, and I'm not a big fan personally, so this is my most personal model. This is the ideal for me as a shape of a guitar. So I'm not a big fan of guitars with a narrow waist, so I wanted like something with a wide waist, something that doesn't compress the air at the waist, a bit like a dreadnought, but something smaller. So I took the design of a Ditson, I increased the lower butt of the guitar, I did move the bridge and the neck body joint a bit, so this is a 13 fret.
Right, yes.
And I made the bracing, the way I like it, and to get the sound I want on it. So all the guitars I make are personal, but this one is a bit special to me. It's the most modern and most personal guitar I make.
As a sole luthier, hand maker of guitars in the 21st century, you have access to woods that the guitar makers of the 20th century could only dream about. What do you enjoy building with most?
Everything. Everything. But I would say the wood I like the most are very simple. An all mahogany guitar is
really?
I
love
that. And I think mahogany as a top is very underestimated. You can get as much variety of sound and with different species of mahogany as you get with different species of spruce. And I think we should treat mahogany a bit more like something that has a lot of possibilities.
Right.
You know,
I have to
because
agree.
you can get really loud, powerful, rich in harmonics and overtones guitars with a mahogany top. And yeah, depending of the species, what it is, Honduran mahogany, Cuban mahogany, even some African, you know, which is not real mahogany, but some African mahogany are incredible for guitar tops.
Sipo, Kaya, that sort of thing.
Yeah, Sipo, Kaya. I use a lot of Sipo in my necks. I love it. I've got a very good Sipo supplier. The Sipo I get is very light, very stiff, just beautiful thing. And yeah, honestly, just my personal favorite is mahogany. But you know, I made this guitar with African blackwood, which I love doing. It's very, very special to work with African blackwood. It's, I think, the second densest wood on the world. So yeah, you have to, same thing, you know, it took me 100 guitars to allow myself to work with such a specific wood. It's more difficult to work with African blackwood than Brazilian rosewood. Brazilian rosewood is just a very good rosewood. you know what I mean. It's easy to work with. There is a lot of potential, but there is no extreme density or stuff like that. This wood is really extreme in his way of behaving on the guitar.
So your 100th guitar just
yeah,
happened?
My 100th guitar happened last year. That was the first B24, which was made with the tree mahogany and an ancient cypress top from dark forest cypress.
Tell me more about this ancient cypress.
This is a new wood in the guitar making world, and this is very interesting. It's a bit denser than any spruce you can get. Some, you know, stiff Adirondack can be as dense as the ancient cypress. And it really gives something in between. The sound was in between cedar and Engelmann spruce, a bit like that. The tap tone at first is not great, but when you start to glue the braces and start to shape the braces, it really comes alive.
Right, okay.
So you have to work slowly with it, to just start to cave the brace, listen to it, and go very slowly to hear it comes alive.
And it's spectacular looking stuff.
Yeah, it's spectacular looking. It's beautiful. It has a grey, kind of a blue-grey green color, and beautiful. You know, it's when it's nicely quarter-sound, beautiful medullary rays.
One thing that really intrigued me was your work with the perfumier for your 100th guitar.
Yeah, exactly. As I told you, my first experience with wood was with Brazilian rosewood. And you know that Brazilian rosewood has a very specific smell, a beautiful smell, like almost sugary, something like a bit caramel or something like that. So I get very sensitive with the smell of wood in general. I just love to spend time just smelling my... You know, some luthier just listen to it, I just sniff it. And when I did resaw the cypress, I just loved the smell of the cypress that was remaining, but also the smell something a bit musky, you know, very deep, very warm into it, but because the cypress spent almost 2,000 years under the bed of the river.
Right, so it's a sinker wood.
It's a sinker wood. And I went to a perfume maker just next to my apartment in Biarritz, and I was, can we make a perfume out of that? So she just created a perfume inspired by the smell of the cypress. And yeah, that was a very fun thing to do.
It's a beautiful sound. Yeah, I really liked it.
And the perfume has been delivered with the guitar. So the person who owns the guitar right now has the perfume with it.
Of course, not everybody has a perfumier next door. You know?
Yeah,
this is
you have to live in France for that.
You were recently featured in one of the top European guitar magazines as a leading light in the next generation of French guitar making. What can you tell me about the French scene?
There is a lot of very, very good French builders in France. And I think most of them are not very well known because French have a bad habit of mostly not speaking English. And the
Really?
guitar making world is a very,
Yes.
English speaking world.
Of course.
So but there is so many talents in France, and there is even like builders who have been there since the 70s. The godfather of French Italy is like Virgile, that
Yes.
which is a very traditional maker, a lot of pearl, a lot of things like that on traditional models, but there is a lot of people who are exploring other ways of making guitars. And a lot of talents. But because, I think this is the only thing, because we don't, a whole generation doesn't speak that much English, it has been complicated for a lot of French builder to communicate.
There was a Quartier Français at the Montreal show, which I remember in the first year, everything was sort of very much apart. And then the next year, I saw this sort of cross-pollination of ideas in the French guitars, in the guitars from North America. It was really wonderful to see how these concepts were spreading, globally.
Yeah. And it's becoming even more like the French builders are starting, because there is a new generation that I'm part of, I think, and that is learning, guitar making all around the world. So we have like new Somogy students coming back from in France, like Michel Aboudi, Louis Manteau, and it's really it's incredible. The community in France is really incredible, and we exchange a lot. And I think just people should start to follow a bit more the French scene.
My understanding is that the name Blind Guitars comes from your love of the blues guitarists of the 20th century. Is that right?
Exactly. When I started the shop, I was listening a lot to Blind Willie Johnson. And I've got a second passion that is astronomy. I remember the moment that I discovered that in the Voyager 2 probe that they sent away from the solar system, there is a record. And on the record, there is Dark Was the Night, Cold Was the Ground by Blind Willie Johnson.
Really?
Yeah, and because there is two passion, in my mind, there is astronomy, and I was just, it felt so inspiring that a guy that had such a miserable life, such a hard life, now is representing, his music is literally representing humanity away from the solar system, and I just... wow, and I want to call my shop like Blind Guitars to pay tribute to those musicians that are the base of like 90% of the music we are listening today.
Brazilian rosewood or the tree?
Brazilian rosewood.
Koa or Tasmanian blackwood?
It depends. They have a lot in common. Honestly, a good lightweight Koa, responsive piece of Koa is as good as a good lightweight responsive piece of Tasmanian blackwood. But generally, the Tasmanian or Australian blackwood in general is a bit denser. It has something of maple in the tone. So I would say Koa.
Flat tops or arch tops?
Flat tops. It's difficult because because arch tops, the arch top I make are kind of a hybrid between, in between flat top and arch top. But in general, flat top.
Short scale or long scale?
Short scale, like 24 points. The one I do like 24 and 3/4. I do prefer the way the string like a 1254 or 1253 feels under this scale length. And I do prefer the sweeter trebles I get with a shorter scale.
OMs or dreadnoughts?
Dreadnought. No hesitation. Dreadnoughts. Like big, powerful guitar, a lot of harmonics, a lot of overtones.
Flat picking or fingerstyle?
Flat picking for me. Yeah. I love fingerstyle. There are some people who are making incredible things with fingerstyle that flat picking. I'm a folk, bluegrass listener, so yeah.
Cocobello or Ziricote?
Cocobello. Ziricote is a beautiful, beautiful wood, but I think it's a bit bright for me. You know, the tap tone is not cockable. The tap tone is rich. You can feel that something is happening in the board. Ziricote, it depends of the piece of wood that you have. Sometimes it's a bit dead. It's really dense. It's like, yeah, but it can be a bit dead. So a lot of trebles, very bright, and not a lot of bass content.
12 fret or 13?
It depends. It depends of the shape of the body. It depends how the bridge is positioned on the body. Like I would say on the classic 00 size 12 fret. But you know, I chose for this one like 13 fret because the 12 frets there was not enough room behind the bridge. So it, you know, there is no rule. It really depends how the bridge is positioned on the body. So no answer on this one. Sorry.
What's in the future? What are your next plans for blind guitars? Any more new models, anything like that?
Yeah, I'm thinking about making this one a bit bigger because, you know, it's a small guitar, but I really enjoy a good note, like a personal note. So I'm thinking about it. I'm not sure that I will make it. And then just continuing to try to make good guitars and enjoy life. That's all. That's the only goal.
Maybe it's a 12 fret slot head?
12 fret slot head tone knot, like this one?
Yeah.
Ah, could be fun. Yeah, could be great.
It's been such a pleasure to spend time here at the Blind Guitars Workshop. Thank you so much, Virgil.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you to you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay tuned. Which I recorded yesterday, so I don't have to do that again. Ha!
That's good.
Clever.